I'm Margaret Ann Windsor, and I'm going to put up a video. It would be video one, and this will be the second one. I was putting it up this morning about mind control murders, which I've spoken of, and about my kidnapping. I was brought over to Moulton, Alabama, near what became NASA in Huntsville, and given another name, Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married children, so I have to still use that name. It was the name of a twin, Peggy and Carl, and both were killed by their mother, Lina. My father's Edward the Eighth, and I'm giving this because if you're just picking it up, you wouldn't understand where I'm going, what I'm speaking of. My father never married Wallace Simpson, an impostor was used. My father was married in 1936 and always was, remained. They were alive. They were made kind of paupers themselves. I'm sure some of the family, the have to say really the Germans helped us, and I assume some of my other family helped, but George the Sixth became the illegal. He sold my father out and helped in my kidnapping. And Wallace Simpson married double, and Elizabeth's always known it. She's always known she's not the legal heir. She works for the Illuminati that helped kidnap me. JFK's father was made ambassador by Roosevelt, and you should hear the input of Eleanor Roosevelt and Franklin Delano, and then later his sons. I mean, you talk about a bunch of crooks. Now, so I get this up. I did the book on mind control and how you can cure an illness or create it, and this was the Tesla files. And back then, I knew I had copies of where it was stolen out of the Tesla files were stolen first by I meant to look his name up. I'm not sure it's John George Trump, but he I believe he's a professor at MIT. He's President Donald Trump's uncle, and he's been mentioned a few times. And I like Donald Trump. I hope he's the good guy. But it's kind of odd that way back in '76, I started doing a book about mind control in the Tesla files. It's because you can program people, and now then it's mass. You can, I'm understanding now you can sit down at a computer and do it. Of course, you have to have a little bit of information about the person, and I suppose you have to have chip in them. They put it in children when they're born for a long time. They put it in agencies, and they're puppets without ever knowing it, probably. And if you did, where would you go with it? To a psychiatrist or a doctor who'd lock you up and tell you were mentally ill? There's absolutely a line, but mental illness has nothing to do with mind control. And to treat a mind control victim, put them on psychotic drugs or treat it, it's gross civil rights violation. Anyway, and Scott Peterson's on death row. That's a mind control murders there. So I won't go into the list and all that. I put it up, but let me skip to this. I watched this program last night on Coast to Coast. It comes on at 1 a.m., which would be this morning, the 15th of August. It was on for 3 hours. I didn't watch the last part, which kind of connected to it, I think. Paul Davis was on Coast to Coast, George Norrie, out of Los Angeles. But anyway, it was the title of Paul Davis. He was the guest in Blowing America's Mind. He's talking about Richard Helms, which kind of got me. The CIA director, keeper of the secrets. He was MK Ultra. Is involved in all this, the mind control. He burned the MK Ultra files on mind control. Princeton University. You should have heard it because some of it made sense to me because of doing the book and coming across the Tesla files. And knowing that they could create an illness or cure it back then, or program people to commit suicide. What's called suicide is murder by mind control. You could program people like they're doing. The mass shootings like Virginia Tech next door. And then you program the shooter to kill himself and appear suicide, and then they say they're mentally ill, just like the Vegas. What was his name? Paddock. There's a whole list of it, but then there are lists like out at in Redstone Arsenal or connected with Huntsville there, where people have been murdered using mind control, where they are actually heart attacks. They're made to have heart attacks or develop cancer, or you can cure it. So they've always had the ability to create an illness or cure it. The Tesla files, which were stolen at first, according to YouTube's, I went back to check my facts, and I found it on YouTube. There are a lot, not about this, but about the files being stolen by the uncle of President Trump. Now, that's what got me going back then, me doing this book, and it's about Tesla files and mind control and curing illness or creating it. And fast forward to President Trump, and then the odd thing was, well, anyway, I'm getting into that part of it, but the hospital I worked for was brand new back in 73, 74, I believe, on Windy Hill Road in Marietta, Georgia. It's Atlanta. And I was doing the book after then, and about this, you can cure an illness or create it, and so you wouldn't need all these people having charities like the Jerry Lewis telethon used to be, and even now, look at the what they're doing with it. And all they're doing is putting it into, they've already had a cure, putting it into the inventory, and you walk into a doctor's office and look at it. And if all this is made to where people have to see it, people would lose their jobs. There's doctors, nurses, pharmaceuticals, all this is technicians. Look at all the health care and all this. So really, I wanted, I told the truth, and they didn't want to hear it. Anyway, I wanted to get this part. By the way, Urban Medical Hospital, when I was back down there, they'd moved a little up closer to, I think it's Highway 41, in going out to Marietta. They moved it on up a little closer. It used to be across the bank where my book was stolen, by the way. It was almost across the street from it, I believe. My book was taken, the letters from FBI and certificates were taken out, and it was Burt Lance's bank. And he was on the council, White House council, Jimmy Carter. I don't, it sounds like I'm bashing Jimmy Carter. I thought Jimmy Carter was always a nice man. He was the governor and president, but I mean, he was so much with Martin Luther King and civil rights, and I've been stripped of civil rights. My sons didn't know what they were either, in all this. And Reverend Andrew Young became mayor, but Jimmy Carter made him ambassador to the United Nations, and Young was with Martin Luther King when he was shot and killed. Now then, he is made ambassador, U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, which was illegally formed, the treaties and everything, after they took my father down and kidnapped me. So it's a front for your global government, your Freemasons, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers. Elizabeth is a legal monarch. She represents them, not the UK or the British government. They had to try to take down the British government. So George VI was illegal. It's sorry sot. Churchill. I put all this up. But now then, I wanted to get back and tell about this, and I guess this was the main thing. Anybody can look up if they didn't want to listen to me. And that's not the case. There's a lot of people. No, I couldn't make any of this up. You can go back and there's timelines and where it happened and all this that you can check out. But Paul Davis was on Coast to Coast last night, and he really knew about MK Ultra, the CIA, and about he mentions Timothy Leary and all this and mind control. In fact, he was in some of it. And well, he's a movie. Evidently, made a lot of movies or helped produce them and everything. But the letter from the FBI, if I can get this in here, letter from the FBI in June the 23rd, my father's birthday of 79. I thought it was because of the book, and then it was supposed to be, somebody said something about kidnapping, and I thought, what's that got to do with me? Well, I found out in '83 when I was flown out to Mr. Flint's in the campaign, and first time I ever met him, and I might say he was very nice. They all were to me there. His wife, Althea, and his brother-in-law, Ryder, was their last name. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm saying that because I don't have people writing this. By the way, I gotta say this real quick. They said, and she was a pretty lady and very nice, but she very pretty, looked like a model. Should I say her last name? I won't, Marilyn. But she worked. She did the speeches for Washington, the mayor of Chicago. So she was sitting down there to do my speeches. She never wrote anything, but she did get all the. There were recordings and everything sent to all the stations, and you could walk down the street and hear one of my I guess, what do you say, videos being played. I was running for U.S. Congress, and they did things like she stayed down in the Hilton. I think it was real expensive in Atlanta, and I forgot what I saw the bill. I don't want to be wrong. I think it was way up there for a week, and it was really nice. Sweet. And here I'm staying at Bambi Rob's. I try to laugh and I'm stripped of everything, and it's what happened to me up till that time. But I don't have anything to eat. I'm walking, and I'm in this campaign, and my campaign speechwriter, and that's where I met Chuck Levine, and he was a part of this. So anyway, I got off track there. After the letter from the FBI, I was down at the office a lot, and my husband was too. But I talked to them on the phone, and I remember at one time the FBI called me and said, "This is what did he say?" I asked, "Did I call or did they call me?" I can't remember. Anyway, he said, "This is." Michael Kean, who was the special agent in charge. Turned out that wasn't Michael Kean, but it was FBI, but they were using Michael Kean's name. He said, I'm going to be gone for, I don't know if he said a while. And he said, I'm also Richard Helms. And he spelled Helms, Helms. And I thought, does he think I can't spell? But I see his point now. Richard Helms, keeper of the secrets, the mind control, and all that. It adds up. And they said national security involved, ongoing investigation. And then I find out about being kidnapped, and my father, Edward VIII, and I'm the legal heir to the British crown. Was there something else now? I did want to mention this. Lois Pearson, I went to, after I did the book and tried to get it published, and I had letters from the doctors I'd worked for, at least the group of three gave me I was Xeroxing the book, and they knew it. But Lois Pearson, I went to work out at Lockheed Marietta, because word processing was just coming in. This is 1979, and I went back and to learn word processing on the word processor, not the typewriter. And that's where I met Lois Pearson. and she was out there in school too. And her sister worked for doctors. I should not have trusted her. I'm overly trusting. But anyway, I thought she was a friend. In fact, I shouldn't let her do this. She copied a lot of my stuff, and the teacher knew it. I guess she gave me an A minus, and gave Lois an A plus. And Lois, not funny, because this is a woman later. The last day of March, I was out there because so much in '80, so much had happened to me, and I'd come back, gone out to my husband's sister, Laura Mae Childers Klein. She lives outside of Austin now. She lived in Abilene. Anyway, I was supposed to go out trying to get the boys away and get a job out there and get them away from Atlanta because so much was happening. And instead, I got turned back when I got to Mesquite outside Dallas. Laura changed overnight and said, "You're no longer welcome. Turn around and go back." Well, my apartment was gone. All this was horrible. And then I went to Lois's to spend a few nights because so much was happening at my apartment, and I was wondering about my ex-husband or husband, whoever he is. And my son told me, well, I'm not going to get into that anymore. My children hopefully are okay. But I went to Lois's, and that's the night I got this put in me. And horrible. And then on forensic files later, they even mentioned Cobb County where two men associated with law enforcement, one from Forsyth County, which is one of the doctors that where I was doing the book and Xeroxing it, and it gave me the letters of recommendation, very nice. That's his name, so you get how they've used it. But they had it put in them, and they died. This was Cobb County where they did it to me. And Buddy Darden ran in the campaign I ran in '83, and he's a nice man. He won, but then he didn't go back for re-election or anything. He was probably a very, I'm sure, I think, honest man. So where does this reach? Where am I going here now? I've told about all I could. There's a lot of things I remember, and I do hope they're told, about CIA Reed. He drove Trailwear Greyhound back then when I was in grade school. First, age 2, I met his daughter. She appears later in Marietta. Her husband, Steve Stevens, I'm not kidding you, worked with my husband at Marietta Lockheed. And it's a horror story what was allowed to happen to me. And I don't know, some people have said to me that the CIA have tried to help me. And they may have. I need all the help I can get in this, and my sons, and hopefully they're okay. But so much has happened that is so sick and vile, and to tell it, and people look down on me. Most people do not. Some of the letters or comments here on the videos are nice, but most people think Elizabeth, they don't care what she's done. She's like flaunting the money and everything. She's illegal. And when they praise, what's her name, that married William, maybe I'm blocking that out because it really, they're thieves. They're traitors. They're war criminals. She represents the Illuminati. She's not even legit. And here I'm wearing rags, and my sons had things done to them and me, their heirs after me, that are so sick. I hope the world has to see it and see how people base their likes or dislike on people. If they've pulled off the biggest heist in history, and Williams, Catherine